You've probably wondered at some point if you've learned the laws of the universe. If children are pure, untouched by the world, why can't they walk on water? They are, after all, innocent, open, and close to the source. They haven't learned doubt. They haven't built walls of disbelief. So why can't that purity itself bend the laws of nature? To understand this, we must look deeper into what consciousness really is. So let's talk about the difference between purity and awareness. But before that, I want to appreciate you being here. So, a child's mind is like a clear mirror. It reflects everything without judgment. They live completely in the now. They feel life without filtering it through logic or fear. But here's the thing: purity is not the same as awareness. Purity is innocence. It allows experience. Awareness is knowing. It creates experience. A child is being lived by life, but a conscious creator lives life deliberately. In other words, a child is inside the dream, while an awakened being realizes, I am the dreamer. So, what does it actually mean to know? What is this knowing? When we say that Jesus knew, we don't mean that he believed really, really hard. We mean he had direct awareness, a state where reality is seen as energy, and energy responds to consciousness. He didn't hope the water would hold him. He knew that water was consciousness and that consciousness was responding to him. When Jesus said, all things are possible to him who believes, in Mark 9:23, he wasn't speaking about religion or worship. He was pointing to a law of creation. What you deeply know to be true becomes your reality. This is actually the matrix of agreement. Most humans live inside what could be called the matrix, a collective field of agreement about what is possible. We agree that water is liquid, that gravity pulls us down, that time moves forward. And because billions of minds share these agreements, they solidify into what we call physical laws. But these laws are not ultimate truth. They are stable frequencies of belief repeated for thousands of years by collective consciousness. To step out of the matrix is not to escape the world. It is to see through it. It is to realize that matter itself is made of awareness, and awareness can choose how it behaves. That is what Jesus did. He didn't fight against the law of gravity. He simply tuned his consciousness to the frequency where gravity no longer applied in the same way. He didn't overpower nature. He became one with it. And in my next video, I will explain exactly how Jesus did it. Meaning how exactly he entered into that state of mind. So back to the question why children cannot yet do this. Children are born close to the divine. They feel the magic, but they don't know They are the magician. They haven't yet discovered that their attention shapes matter. They haven't yet recognized that everything they see is a mirror of their own vibration. They are pure receivers, not deliberate transmitters. Their consciousness is open but not yet focused. To walk on water requires the opposite of innocence. It requires certainty born of knowing. A frequency so stable that even the world's collective belief cannot override it. That is the power of true consciousness, not the purity of not knowing, but the mastery of knowing that you are the creator. So now that we understand the difference between purity and knowing, let's explore something even deeper. The mysterious relationship between the observer and what is observed. In modern science, there is a famous experiment called the double-slit experiment. It was meant to study how light behaves, whether it acts like particles or like waves. But what scientists discovered changed everything we thought we knew about reality. When no one is watching, light behaves like a wave, spread out, infinite, full of possibilities. But the very moment it is observed, it changes its behavior. It stops being a wave of infinite potential and becomes a particle, a single specific event. In other words, reality behaves differently when it is being looked at. The universe, it seems, does not exist as something fixed and solid. It exists as potential until consciousness looks at it. This is not just science, it's where spirituality and physics meet. So why am I telling you this? It's all about the power of the observer. You are not separate from what you see. The act of seeing shapes the thing that is seen. Jesus hinted at this mystery when he said, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." Matthew 6:22. He wasn't talking about the physical eye. He was speaking of focused consciousness. When your awareness is single, meaning undivided, steady, clear, your reality aligns perfectly with it. Now let's return for a second to the question, why can't children walk on water even though they're pure? Yes, they don't have any disbelief, but maybe it's the beliefs of those watching them. When a child grows up, they are surrounded by observers, parents, teachers, society, each holding a stable belief in what is possible. When those observers look at the child, they project their version of reality onto them. So even if the child were to approach the water with no fear and an open heart, the collective observation around them anchors them into a shared, stable version of the world. It is not the child's doubt that pulls them down. It is the agreement of consciousness that keeps the water liquid. So there is a collective dream, actually. The physical world is a shared dream, a projection of many minds overlapping. And within that shared dream, the stronger belief always dominates. That is why when a being like Jesus appeared, his consciousness was so expanded, so unwavering, that even the collective disbelief of the world could not override it. Jesus saw beyond the observer's illusion. He realized that there was never a separation between the observer and the observed. There was only one consciousness, playing both roles, the seer and the seen. So the hidden teaching here is that perhaps the question is not why can't children walk on water, but rather when will humanity remember that the water was never separate from them? When we remember that the act of observing is the act of creating, we will no longer be bound by the rules that were born from collective doubt. That is the awakening, to see not only with innocence, but with knowing eyes. So in this video, we've explored why children, though pure, cannot yet walk on water, because purity without knowing is innocence, and because the collective gaze of others anchors reality in place. We've seen how Jesus demonstrated a different state of consciousness, one that knows matter is consciousness, one that steps outside the matrix of collective agreement. Now the questions turns to you. If you could return to childhood with the awareness you have now, what would you choose to create? Would you see water or as consciousness responding to you? Would you choose to be a passive observer or a conscious creator of your reality? And let's go even deeper. What beliefs are you still carrying that belongs to the matrix of collective consciousness, of collective thoughts? What could shift if you began to look at your world as waves of possibility rather than fixed solid facts? If these questions stir something inside you, share your reflection in the comments. Write the word "I am a creator" to anchor your own knowing and to connect with others on this journey. Your voice matters here. Your observation shapes this space. Together we are remembering. So thank you for being here. I was Shira. I really appreciate your shares, comments, likes, and subs. Have a wonderful day.